Yakuza is a game franchise that you may or may not be aware of for a variety of reasons. Maybe you've seen the litany of compilations featuring various bizarre moments across the series without any context, like The developers of Yakuza 0 utilize numerous subtle and not-so-subtle visual cues and references throughout its world to bring depth to its characters, especially protagonist Kazuma Kiryu, and tell a more complete and compelling story without having to deliver it through dialogue alone. Right from the opening sequence, we can learn a few things about Kiryu. His imposing size and physical strength allow him to easily overpower this wormy little fellow and extract some money for a loan shark waiting outside. Kiryu spends most of this exchange, and his entire life, perfecting the ultimate scowl, and he's not showing any interest in the offers the loan shark makes him. Even at the very beginning of the story, Kiryu is a man at odds with the reality of the world he lives in. He's stuck doing the only thing he really knows how to do well, punching faces for people he doesn't respect, and what money and status he gains doesn't calm the restlessness of his idealistic heart. With blood on his face and knuckles swollen from a job well done, Kazuma Kiryu walks in the warm glow of Kamurocho's neon-saturated streets to meet his oath brother, Nishikiyama, for what really matters in life: a drink and the greatest karaoke in the history of video games. This is one of the weirdest sentences I'll ever write. Yakuza karaoke songs often serve as an incredibly novel method of indirect visual characterization for our protagonists. Seriously, in addition to being one of the best tracks in the franchise, Judgment is Kiryu and Nishiki's favorite song to sing together. It comes up more than once as an activity necessary to advance the story, and both characters know it so well that they can switch between singing main or backing vocals on very short notice. The silly 80s hairband music video that plays for the song captures the rebellious energy of Kiryu's youth, supported by Nishiki on bass guitar and one of his mentors, Kashiwagi, on keyboard. These guys are on Kiryu's side no matter what, and it's a bond that will be tested in days soon to come.
よく味わって据えよ、兄弟。なんでこうなっちまったんだろうな。
It's no coincidence that Judgment is Kiryu's favorite song. The lyrics describe bad boys sticking to their own justice, regardless of who the authorities are. It's the ideal that the Yakuza like to compare themselves to, but fall short of in reality, a dichotomy that the franchise loves to play with as it shapes the moral philosophy of its main hero.
話にならねえよ。
A little bit further down the line, we get to see Yakuza's most interesting way of suggesting character. The brilliantly detailed tattoos that many prominent characters hide beneath their clothing. Just for a free bit of history, Yakuza tattoos date back nearly 400 years and have their origins as government-issued prison tattoos, used to mark former criminals. Like the origins of many mafia around the world, the criminal underclass organized to develop networks that traded in smuggling stolen or illegal goods, as well as illicit activities like gambling. In order to demonstrate loyalty to the chivalrous organization, or Ninkyo Dantai, gang members would undergo the very slow and very painful application of hand-poked tattoos, or irezumi. Typically, these tattoos would depict figures or animals from mythology and folklore, with the cultural context of these images suggesting the history, nature, or accomplishments of the individual wearing them. Yakuza takes this pretty literally, and the permanence of tattoos as body markings are the game's way of implying that the traits these tattoos show are indelible aspects of the character who wears them, no matter what choices they make, or what happens to them. To bring things back to Kiryu, when we see his tattoos in Yakuza 0, it's only got the initial line work completed. His tattoo is that of a dragon grasping a pearl, dragons being among the most powerful and wise creatures in Eastern mythology. Much like Kiryu himself, it resembles what it's meant to be, but without the color provided by time and the experience of life. It is not yet complete. This goes for Nishikiyama as well, though his tattoo is that of a koi swimming up a river. In Japanese folklore, it is believed that if a koi manages to complete the monumental task of swimming all the way up the river, it will ascend to transform itself into a powerful dragon. Some of the greatest enemies Kiryu faces throughout Yakuza 0 are his fellow Yakuza. Specifically, Dojima family lieutenants he comes into conflict with almost as soon as the game starts. Their tattoos also feature thoughtfully chosen imagery indicating their symbolic roles in the story. A good example is Daisaku Kuze, who wears a depiction of Enma, a Buddhist god of hell who stands in judgment of his prisoners if they try to leave. Kuze is an absolute tank of a man.
お前はもうこの手で直接やらねえと気が済まねえ。
He's a pretty challenging boss fight for new players to the series in particular, and you'll fight him repeatedly throughout the story. With each duel, Kuze's attitude towards Kiryu changes more for the positive, as the player and Kiryu in turn become stronger all the time. Eventually, the Gatekeeper of Hell finally lets a soul or two go free, perhaps even his own.
ほら、てめえのやるべきことをやったまでだ。
While it's super awesome and hypermasculine when the shirts go off, While it's super awesome and weird and hypermasculine when the shirts go off and the inks come... This is a tricky line. While it's super awesome and weird and hyper-masculine when the shirts go off and the ink comes out, Yakuza 0 is remarkably judicious about when this is done. It doesn't happen just because it looks super freaking cool. A character showing their tattoo in this game is an expression of who they are in that moment in the purest sense. The character speaks plainly and without deception. They explain their motivations clearly and often with conviction, bearing their soul along with their skin.
人を殴るのが好きでな。相手がムカついたから殴るんじゃねえ。殴るのが好きだから殴った。
For the first and second duel with Kuze, his shirt comes off, but not Kiryu's. By the time these fights happen, we know most of what there is to know about Kuze. He's just showing us what he's made of. Kiryu's tattoo is shown at a couple of key moments for him. Early in the game when he's taking a shower, and late in the game when dueling Shibusawa. Shower scenes, when they aren't being used for slasher tropes, are often used to suggest a character's vulnerability via some degree of nudity and taking time to slow the story down and absorb recent events. At this early point in the story, Kiryu is in a difficult situation and has absolutely no idea how to get himself out of it. With no real experience to fall back on, all he has is the aid of Tachibana, a man he may not be able to trust. And whatever kind of person Kiryu's mysterious benefactor is, Kiryu knows he's waiting just outside the bathroom. As for the duel with Keiji Shibusawa, an unfilled and colorless dragon tattoo battles a finished one. A quick visual suggestion of resolute, inexperienced youth taking on a wizened expert who's been doing this for a long time. Shibusawa's tattoo has some fundamental differences, both in color and in framing, and notably does not possess the Pearl of Wisdom that Kiryu's dragon tattoo protects. At a few points in the fight, the two Yakuza grapple, and the camera frames the struggle in such a way that the dueling dragon tattoos are practically making eye contact. If the visual subtext wasn't enough for you, Kiryu spells out the conceptual conflict of the duel with the line,
竜は一匹でいい。
Their bodies show various forms of damage as the very long and brutal fight wears on. By the fight's climax, Kiryu's knuckles are stained dark red with 2 coats of blood, more of it spattering up his wrists as he inches closer to making a lifelong decision that will define the man he is about to grow into. Now there is so much more to Yakuza 0 alone that shows the extraordinary merit of this franchise's storytelling style. Classically cinematic, but presented in ways arguably only games can accomplish. I didn't even talk about Majima once, and you can hardly imagine how much I want to. Hope you enjoyed. More to come.